Welcome to InnoTech Deep Dive, your go-to podcast for in-depth discussions on today's hottest economic topics. We bring you fresh perspectives on important global issues, helping you understand the world in a deeper way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to InnoTech. For today's deep dive, we're going to be looking at something that's really shaken up the AI world. It's called DeepSeek. It's a Chinese AI app, and it's making waves not just because of what it can do, but because of how cheaply it was developed. Just to give you an idea of the impact this thing has had, DeepSeek's arrival actually triggered a massive drop in NVIDIA's stock value. Like, we're talking almost $600 billion gone, poof. Even former President Trump has weighed in on this. He sees it as a sign that China's catching up in the AI game, and he thinks that the U.S. needs to step up its game. So that's what we're going to be unpacking today. How did DeepSeek manage to pull this off with like a fraction of the resources that its competitors have? What does this mean for the future of AI? And could this be a kind of Sputnik moment that forces the U.S. to innovate like never before? To help us make sense of all this, I've got Sam with me today. He's an expert on AI and the global tech scene. So Sam, what are your first impressions of DeepSeek's grand entrance?
The really fascinating thing about DeepSeek is that it challenges all those assumptions we had about what it takes to win in the AI space. It's not just about throwing money and processing power at a problem anymore. Clearly, there's more to it than that.
Exactly. And for anyone who hasn't heard of it yet, DeepSeek is a free AI chatbot, kind of like ChatGPT. It's powered by this large language model called R1, but there's something different about it, right?
Oh, yeah. It's not just another chatbot. One of the things that makes DeepSeek stand out is that it can actually explain how it got to an answer. It walks you through its whole reasoning process, which is a level of transparency we haven't really seen before.
And it's not just transparent, it's seriously powerful. I mean, from what I've read, DeepSeek can hold its own against the big names like ChatGPT. When it comes to complex stuff like coding and math, it's even scoring at the top of the chatbot arena leaderboard, which is a project that's affiliated with UC Berkeley. Pretty impressive, right? Definitely caught a lot of people by surprise. I mean, DeepSeek's performance on benchmarks like Emmy 2024, which focuses on math, and MMLU, which tests general knowledge. It's been incredible.
Especially when you consider that they reportedly developed it for a fraction of what OpenAI spent on ChatGPT. How do they manage that?
That's the million-dollar question. The details are still pretty hush-hush, but there are some clues out there. There's this theory going around that DeepSeek's founder, Liang Wenfeng, he actually stockpiled a bunch of NVIDIA A100 chips, before the U.S. banned exporting them to China.
So he had access to top-tier hardware, but he combined it with a totally different approach.
Exactly. A lot of experts think that DeepSeek is pairing those high-end A100 chips with cheaper, more readily available chips. It's like a clever workaround. It goes against that whole idea that you need the most expensive and powerful hardware to make breakthroughs in AI.
Almost like they found a loophole in the system and then used it to their advantage.
Yeah, you could say that. And it really supports what Cathie Wood's been saying about the cost of AI training and inference collapsing. DeepSeek is living proof of that.
So let's talk about the impact this has had. NVIDIA's stock took a major hit after DeepSeek came out. They lost something like $600 billion in market value. That's a wake-up call if I've ever seen one.
Definitely sent shockwaves through the whole industry. NVIDIA's stock had been doing really well because everyone thought their chips were essential for AI development. And then DeepSeek comes along and challenges that assumption.
So now the big players, like OpenAI and Meta, are they scrambling to change their strategies?
They're definitely paying attention. I think DeepSeek's success could force them to rethink how they do things, especially when it comes to costs.
And we can't forget that DeepSeek's models are open source. Anyone can use their work and build on it.
That's a game changer right there. Open sourcing could totally accelerate innovation in the AI field if other people can build on what DeepSeek's already done.
It's like they're inviting everyone to play in the AI sandbox.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is all coming out of China just adds another layer of complexity to the whole story.
Right. It's not just a tech innovation. It's a sign of China's growing ambition in AI.
Exactly. DeepSeek shows how committed China is to becoming a global leader in AI, even with all those restrictions on getting advanced chips. It challenges the whole narrative of U.S. being the top dog in tech.
Some people are even calling this China's Sputnik moment.
Yeah.
Like a wake-up call that could spark a wave of innovation, not just in China, but everywhere.
It's a good comparison. Just like Sputnik made the U.S. pour resources into the space race, DeepSeek could have a similar effect on AI. It could trigger a global AI race with countries investing way more in research and development.
And speaking of investment, DeepSeek's approach of combining high-end and more common chips could really shake up the semiconductor industry too, right?
Absolutely. That's something to keep an eye on. If DeepSeek's model keeps proving itself, it could disrupt the whole hierarchy in the chip market. Companies like NVIDIA that have been focused on making really powerful and expensive chips might have to change their game plan.
So instead of this constant push for raw processing power, we might see a shift towards more efficient and affordable solutions.
Exactly. DeepSeek's success could lead to the development of new AI chips that prioritize efficiency and keep costs down. That could open up the market to new players and make AI technology more accessible to a wider range of people.
And that brings us to the impact on other industries. We've talked about the tech world, but DeepSeek's potential goes way beyond that. Where do you see the biggest changes happening?
Cloud computing is definitely ripe for disruption. DeepSeek's cost-effective approach could really shake things up for cloud providers. Imagine a world where cloud services can offer high-performance AI capabilities, but at a fraction of the cost.
That would be huge for smaller businesses and startups that don't have the money to build their own AI infrastructure.
Absolutely. It would level the playing field and give them access to the same tools that were previously only available to big corporations. This could lead to a surge of innovation across all sorts of sectors as smaller players start using AI in new and creative ways.
What about specific areas like healthcare, finance, and education? How could DeepSeek change the game in those fields?
The possibilities in healthcare are mind-blowing. Think about AI-powered diagnostic tools that can analyze medical images more accurately and quickly. That could lead to earlier detection and treatment of diseases.
And in finance, AI could be used to create more sophisticated risk assessment models, helping financial institutions make smarter lending decisions. And that could even expand access to credit for communities that have been underserved.
Absolutely. And in education, DeepSeek's ability to explain its reasoning process could revolutionize personalized learning. Imagine AI tutors that not only provide customized instruction, but can actually explain the concepts in a way that each student understands.
It's almost like having a personal tutor for every student, no matter their background or resources.
Exactly, and that kind of personalized learning experience could be transformative, especially for students who struggle in traditional classroom settings.
But with all this talk about DeepSeek's potential, we have to acknowledge that there could be some downsides to consider. Like any powerful technology, it comes with its own set of risks.
Of course. And one of the biggest challenges with AI in general is making sure it's developed and used responsibly. We have to be aware of potential biases that can be embedded in these systems, especially when they're used in areas like healthcare or criminal justice where the stakes are high.
So it's not just about building powerful AI, it's about building ethical AI. How do we make sure these systems are fair, unbiased, and aligned with our values?
It's a complicated issue, and it requires a multifaceted approach. We need to be careful about the data that's used to train these systems, making sure it's diverse and representative. We also need to develop strong mechanisms for auditing and monitoring AI systems to catch and fix any potential biases.
And what about the impact on jobs? That's a worry that always comes up when we talk about AI. Is it a legitimate concern, or are we making a bigger deal out of it than we need to?
It's a valid concern, and we shouldn't ignore it. It's inevitable that some jobs will be automated as AI technology advances. But history has shown us that when technology advances, it also creates new jobs and opportunities that we couldn't have predicted.
So instead of dwelling on the jobs that might be lost, we should be preparing for the jobs of the future, the jobs that will be created because of AI.
Exactly. We need to invest in education and training programs that give people the skills they'll need to succeed in a world where AI is everywhere. This includes technical skills, of course, but also things like critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. Those are the skills that are uniquely human, and they'll become even more valuable as AI takes over routine tasks.
It seems like DeepSeek has really turned everything upside down, not just in the tech world, but across a whole range of industries.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere. It can challenge the status quo and push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's definitely a fascinating story, and one that we'll keep following closely. But for now, let's take a step back and think about what this all means for the average person. How could DeepSeek and this trend of more accessible AI actually affect our daily lives?
Yeah.
That's a great question. We've talked about the market impact, the geopolitical implications, the potential for disruption in different industries. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to how this technology will affect people's lives. What are your thoughts on that, Sam?
I think DeepSeek and this whole movement towards more accessible and affordable AI could lead to a wave of personalized experiences that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Think about it. AI tutors that are tailored to your specific learning style, AI-powered healthcare assistants that monitor your health and give you personalized recommendations, even AI-powered creative tools that help you express yourself in completely new ways.
It's an interesting idea. Instead of AI being this distant, intimidating thing, it could become a more integrated part of our lives, almost like a helpful and intelligent companion.
Exactly. And the fact that DeepSeek is transparent, that it can explain its reasoning, could be crucial in building trust and making people more comfortable interacting with these AI systems on a personal level.
It's like a shift from AI being this black box to a trusted advisor. We're not just accepting its output blindly anymore. We can actually understand why it's making certain decisions.
Precisely. And as that trust grows, I think we'll see an explosion of creativity and innovation in how AI is used to improve our lives. The possibilities are truly endless.
And you mentioned this earlier, but the fact that DeepSeek is open source could also democratize access to these powerful tools and resources, right?
Absolutely. Imagine a world where small businesses, entrepreneurs, even students in developing countries have access to the same AI capabilities as the biggest corporations. DeepSeek could completely level the playing field and empower individuals and communities all over the world. It's a pretty exciting prospect.
It is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to remember that any powerful technology comes with its own set of challenges and potential risks. What are some of the things we need to be mindful of as AI becomes more common and accessible?
You're right. We can't just charge ahead blindly. We need to be cautious and thoughtful about how we develop and deploy these systems. One concern is the potential for misuse. AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's crucial that we create ethical guidelines and safeguards to prevent it from being used for harmful purposes.
So it's not just about advancing the technology, it's about making sure it's used responsibly and ethically. That's a crucial point.
Absolutely. We need to be vigilant about addressing these concerns and making sure that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Sam, this has been a fascinating conversation. DeepSeek has definitely given us a lot to think about: the potential benefits, the possible risks, and the sheer scale of its potential impact. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up this episode?
I think the main takeaway is that we're still just scratching the surface of AI's potential and how it will impact our world. DeepSeek's arrival is a powerful reminder that innovation can come from unexpected places and that the landscape is constantly changing. It's an exciting time to be following this field, and I encourage everyone to stay curious, stay engaged, and be part of shaping the future of AI.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, Sam. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this exploration of DeepSeek insightful and thought-provoking. As always, we encourage you to keep exploring, questioning, and imagining the possibilities. The future of AI is in our hands.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that DeepSeek is coming out of China adds a whole other layer to this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's not just about the technology. It's a statement about China's ambitions in the AI world.
Definitely, DeepSeek highlights just how serious China is about becoming a leader in AI. Even with all those restrictions on getting their hands on advanced chips, it kind of flips the script on that whole idea of the U.S. dominating tech.
Some people are even going as far as calling this China's Sputnik moment, like a wake-up call that could spark a whole new wave of innovation. And not just in China, but globally.
Yeah, I see the comparison. Just like Sputnik pushed the U.S. to go all in on the space race, DeepSeek could have the same effect on AI development. It could trigger a global race with every country scrambling to invest more in research and development.
And speaking of investment, DeepSeek's whole approach with the chips, combining high-end and regular ones, could that have a ripple effect on the semiconductor industry?
Oh, for sure. That's a big one to watch. If DeepSeek's model proves that it works, it could completely change the game for chip makers. Companies like NVIDIA that have been focused on building those super powerful and expensive chips might need to rethink their strategy.
So instead of this constant chase for more and more processing power, we might actually see a shift towards solutions that are more efficient and affordable.
Exactly. DeepSeek could be the push that the industry needs to start developing AI chips that are more focused on efficiency and keeping costs down. And that could open up the market to new players, making AI technology more accessible for a wider range of users.
Okay, so we've talked about the tech world, but DeepSeek's potential goes way beyond that. Where else do you see this having a major impact?
Well, one area that comes to mind is cloud computing. DeepSeek's cost-effective model could be a game changer for cloud providers. Imagine cloud services that can offer all the power of AI but at a much lower cost.
It would be huge for small businesses and startups, the ones that don't have the resources to build their own AI infrastructure.
Exactly. It would level the playing field, giving them access to tools that were previously out of reach. And that could lead to a boom in innovation across all kinds of industries, as these smaller players get their hands on AI and start using it in new and creative ways.
What about specific sectors, like healthcare, finance, education? How could DeepSeek change things up in those areas?
Well, in healthcare, the possibilities are really exciting. Think about AI-powered diagnostic tools that can analyze medical images with incredible accuracy and speed. That could mean earlier and more effective treatment of diseases.
And in finance, AI could be used to build more sophisticated risk assessment models, helping financial institutions make smarter decisions about lending. And that could potentially open up access to credit for people who have been left out in the past.
Right. And when it comes to education, DeepSeek's ability to explain its thinking could revolutionize personalized learning. Imagine AI tutors that can not only provide customized instruction, but also explain the concepts in a way that makes sense to each student.
So basically, every student gets their own personal tutor,
Yeah,
no matter what their background or resources are.
exactly. And that kind of personalized learning could have a huge impact, especially for students who struggle in a traditional classroom setting.
Now, we've talked a lot about the potential of DeepSeek, but we also have to be realistic and acknowledge that there could be some downsides. Any powerful technology comes with risks.
Of course. And I think one of the biggest challenges with AI in general is making sure that it's used responsibly. We have to be mindful of the potential for bias. These systems can be biased, and that's especially dangerous in areas like healthcare or criminal justice where the stakes are really high.
So it's not just about building AI that's powerful. It's about making sure it's ethical. How do we ensure that these systems are fair, unbiased, and truly aligned with our values?
That's a tough question. It's a complex issue that requires a multi-pronged approach. We need to be very careful about the data that we use to train these systems, making sure it's diverse and representative. And we also need to develop strong ways to audit and monitor AI systems so we can detect and address any potential biases.
And what about the impact on jobs? This is something that always comes up when we talk about AI. Is it a valid concern, or are we overreacting?
I think it's a legitimate concern. We can't ignore it. As AI gets more advanced, it's inevitable that some jobs will be automated. But history has shown us that technological advancements also create new jobs and opportunities, ones that we might not even be able to imagine right now.
So maybe instead of worrying about the jobs that we might lose, we should focus on preparing for the jobs of the future, the ones that will be created because of AI.
I think that's the right mindset. We need to invest in education and training programs that will give people the skills they need to succeed in a world that's increasingly driven by AI. This includes technical skills for sure, but also things like critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. Those are the skills that are uniquely human, and they'll become even more important as AI takes over the more routine tasks.
It seems like DeepSeek has really shaken things up, not just in the tech world, but across a whole range of industries.
It really has, and it's a good reminder that innovation can come from anywhere. It can challenge the status quo and push the limits of what we thought was possible.
It's a fascinating story, and one that we'll be keeping a close eye on. But for now, let's take a step back and think about what this means for the average person. How could DeepSeek and this whole trend of more accessible AI affect our everyday lives?
I think it could lead to like this wave of really personalized experiences, like stuff we haven't even imagined yet. AI tutors that adapt to your learning style, AI healthcare assistants that keep tabs on your health and give you advice that's specific to you, even AI-powered creative tools that help you express yourself in new ways.
So instead of AI being this kind of distant thing,
Yeah.
it could become more like a close companion, almost like a helpful and really smart friend.
Exactly. And that transparency thing with DeepSeek, the fact that it can explain its reasoning, that could be really important for building trust. Making people more comfortable with the idea of interacting with these systems on a personal level.
It's like AI is going from being this mysterious black box to becoming like a trusted advisor. You're not just taking his word for it anymore.
Yeah.
You understand the logic behind its decisions.
Right. And as that trust grows, I think we're going to see so much creativity and innovation in how AI is used to make our lives better. The possibilities are truly limitless.
You touched on this earlier, but that whole open source thing with DeepSeek, that could really change the game when it comes to who has access to these powerful tools.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine a world where small businesses, entrepreneurs, students in developing countries, they all have the same AI capabilities as the big corporations. DeepSeek could really level the playing field and empower people all over the world.
Yeah.
That's a pretty exciting thought.
It is.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's worth remembering that Any powerful technology has its risks. What are some things we need to watch out for as AI becomes more widespread and more accessible?
You're right. We can't just assume everything will be fine. We need to be thoughtful about how we develop and use these systems.
Hmm.
I think one big concern is the potential for misuse. AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. We need to have ethical guidelines and safeguards in place to prevent it from being used for harmful purposes.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about making sure it's used ethically and responsibly. That's a really important point.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive about addressing these concerns and ensuring that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Well, Sam, this has been a fascinating conversation. DeepSeek has certainly given us a lot to think about. The potential benefits, the possible risks, the sheer scale of its impact. Any final thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up this episode?
I think the key takeaway is that we're still in the early days of AI. We're just starting to understand what it can do and how it will shape our world. DeepSeek is a reminder that innovation can come from anywhere and that things can change very quickly. It's an exciting time to be following this field, and I encourage everyone to stay curious, stay engaged, and be a part of shaping the future of AI.
Great advice. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, Sam. It's been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure, too.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this exploration of DeepSeek insightful and thought-provoking. As always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep imagining the possibilities. The future of AI is in our hands.